Hey, I'm getting ready for bed and I wanted to share a story because I was watching the documentary about Puff Daddy. And it reminded me how when I was younger, I was in my 30s, I used to have a friend, his name is Terrell Calloway. And Calloway worked for Prince, he worked for the Time. He worked for with many celebrities. One time he even called me and asked me if I wanted to go on tour with him, Boys to Men, Beyonce, and a couple of other groups. But I was pregnant with my son Aaron, so I couldn't make it. But I met a lot of celebrities. I met a lot of football players, basketball players, and it was a lot of fun. I never had a serious relationship with anyone, never was intimate with anyone because I had a good friend that was married to a famous football player, and she told me everything. She's like, date, don't get intimate, So I used to make up all kinds of stories. I was always on my friend, if you know what I mean. I always had a headache. I was busy. I had to hurry up and come home. A lot of those guys used to think that I was married or, had a serious boyfriend and used to just lie to them. But I didn't. I was super single. I just didn't want to become intimate and be used by someone that I know wasn't going to be serious with me because the person who was a good friend of mine, she had been married, but her husband, didn't wasn't fully faithful to her. So I kind of learned from her and from my friend Terrell. Terrell used to always tell me like, stay away from these guys, hang around with them, go out to dinner, party, 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 but just don't get intimate with them. And I listened. So that saved me. But he used to call me and he used to tell me, come to the Roxy tonight. So he managed the Roxy in Boston. And one night he called me and he was telling me that I needed to come. I needed to come. I wasn't sure why. And it was because Biggie was going to perform. I had no idea. He wasn't going to perform like he was performing. It was just like a little surprise thing. I remember Coolio was there that night. There were a lot of other basketball players that were very famous. There was one specific, very famous basketball player from the Celtics, but he had been in played in other teams, and he was trying to buy me a drink. I was declining. I got a soda because I used to always like say, if I took a drink from someone, I would dump it because I always bought my own drinks. I knew that there were stuff that they were putting in drinks. So me and my friends didn't play that. We went in, bought our drinks. Sometimes when the people that we did accept drinks from were people who we really knew, but when it came to people that we didn't know, we it wasn't that simple. We would get it from the bar, and during those days, the bartenders didn't play with drinks. But now I hear sometimes you have to be careful because even the bartenders can slip like stuff inside your drink. So, ladies, still be very careful. But back in those days, I had a lot of fun. When I met Biggie, my friend Terrell asked me to go upstairs to VIP. I went to VIP. Biggie introduced himself as Chris, not as Biggie Smalls. I was wearing very high heels. I'm short, but my heels were like 6 inches. They were platform stilettos. They were ridiculously high. So he was just about a couple of inches taller than me, and that with those incredible heels. And I was like looking right at his face. I remember he was really nice. He bought me a drink. We sat down, we started talking. He asked me where I was from and all that, and had small talk. And then my friend Barbara was nudging me and she's like, Dania, these who are these people? She didn't know either. I had no idea who he was. But then when we went downstairs and I had dissed him, that's when I heard him on the stage, and he was singing the very famous song that was playing all over the radio. It was the number one song. But me and Barbara looked at each other and we were like, wow, we cannot judge a book by its cover. But he was a sweetheart. He was really nice. And it really pained me to know that his life ended at such a young age. And just like everybody else, I suspect that Diddy did it. I do believe that he, I know it's allegedly, I know it's not proven, but I do believe that he had something to do with it. And it's just my opinion. You form yours. But I also think that he had something to do with Tupac. And then I have also a Tupac story. Now, I never met Tupac, but my husband, Reggie, looked like him so much that when we went on vacation to Jamaica, we were being followed, chased, and my husband had to literally give a signature to two different people because they were literally following us. There was one man approached us while we were having dinner, and then the next day there him and his friend were like outside waiting for us, and they found out where our room was. So we started getting scared. People were like telling us that they knew Tupac was alive, and it was frustrating and it was a little scary. But it was, now that I think about it, my husband did look a lot like Tupac. We really did love Tupac's music, and he's an amazing legend. And I also do believe that this guy Diddy had something to do with that too. So when it comes to the seven keys, where are they? My grandmother used to work with the priest in the Dominican Republic, and she used to do exorcisms. She was what they would call, I guess, I don't know, but I believe they would call like a medicine woman. And she used to have like the ability to detect like demonic entities in people. To be honest with you, I think that that's pretty much just insanity. Like when somebody is going above and beyond and they have reached a maximum of like psychosis and they're out of control. But also, there's people that perform black magic and they do things with people's bodily fluids. So they've talked a lot about how Diddy would take the SM from men and play with it and things like that. And I do believe that some of the stuff that he was doing with that stuff was demonic. And it's supposedly energy, and it's supposed to work to make you more powerful, stronger. You're using another person's energy, to get something out of it. And that's why he used to have a lot of men, give him their thing, because it's like a mental thing. It's not true, but when you believe it to be true, then that's where the power lies. And the bad thing about it is that, yes, whatever it is, it will give you whatever it is that you want because you believe it. However, because it is coming from a manipulative form, from an ego energy, ego mentality, that is not going to be sustainable. So what happens is that the person ends up losing it all. So you were building a tower, and then the tower comes crashing down, and everything that you have built with that type of energy will be destroyed, and everybody who even helped you build it will also destroy. And the best thing to happen is for anything to happen here on earth and for that destruction to happen here on earth, because it's better to pay for your sins and pay for whatever you've done here on earth here, because then when you pass on to the other side, you don't end up having eternal peace. You end up coming back here again in a much worse format. And the stories that I've heard about hell are not anything that any spirit or any energetic form would ever want to be stuck in. And I think I would love to share some of the stories that I have heard about that, but I'm getting ready for bed and that's not a good thing to start sharing. So I'll have another video so we can talk about that key, the key of hell.